शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। I've been asked to speak on the topic, can I see God? I'm sure this thought and this question has come to our minds, and we have encountered this in different occasions. Can I see God? Implies that we want to have some kind of a visual experience of God and divine truth. We must, when we talk about seeing God, means we are trying to, it's just like we see many other things. Can I see God? But we know that our eyes have the ability to see certain things in this world, and our eyes cannot see many things. Like, say, there are radio waves in this room which our eyes cannot see. So shall we say the radio waves don't exist? When I look at any of you, I see your form. I don't see your intelligence. I cannot see your mind. Can I say that all of you are mindless, intelligence-less people? I'm sure you'll all be angry at me. So in other words, there are many things that exist which may not come within the purview of our sight, but we cannot deny its existence. What happens is, we may not see certain things, but if I can see its effect, I can conclude its presence. The effect of the radio waves is maybe someone's mobile phone will start ringing, and then we know, although I could not see the radio waves, when it comes and strikes the mobile phone and creates a ringtone, I know there is a radio wave that is working. If I tell you some story, something very emotional story, and at the end of that story I see all of you very moved by that, or maybe a humorous story and all of you are laughing at that, that shows that you all have a mind. Or if I give you a small puzzle and I ask many of you to solve, and then many of you raise your hands and solve, I can see your intelligence working. So we may not see something, but we can see its effect. Then we can conclude that there is something, the presence of that. If we see around us in this world, there are some very wonderful manifestations. Like Srila Prabhupada gave this wonderful example. If there is a nice piece of art, and if I show you that art, and one of the questions that comes to people's mind is, oh, wonderful art. Who is the artist behind this? Who created this? Now, if I were to tell you, no, you just take someone, just took some paint and just threw it on a canvas, and then in due course of time, a nice piece of art came about, you will say, no, how can it be possible? In the same way, in nature, when we see certain beautiful things, like this beautiful flower, or the beautiful sceneries, people travel long distances to go and admire some beautiful scenery in this world, like a waterfall or mountains and such things. Request you all to kindly move up. There are a few more people trying to come and sit from behind. Thank you very much. So when we see all of this natural beauty in this world, there must be a question that who created this wonderful beauty in nature? And if you are told that no, it just happened by itself. Or say, for instance, I read a piece of Matha Paratharam Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Manigana Iva. Suppose I show you a nice necklace and you will say, wow, it looks so good. And not me, the right person wears it, it'll look good. And it has colors, and it has beads, it has a pattern, and all of that. Very nice necklace. Now, you see the nice necklace and the pattern and all of that because there is some string that is holding it together. And if I snap that string, then all of them will fall apart and you won't have the nice necklace. So Krishna is saying, Mayi sutre manigana iva. You see all of these wonderful things in nature, and they are all held together by the thread, and I am that thread who is holding together. When you see the necklace, you see the beautiful colors and the pattern and all of those things, but you don't see the thread which is holding that pattern together. In the same way, Krishna is the one who is holding all of these wonderful things in the universe. But he is not seen by design. We will come to that a little while later. Just like here in this city, after sunset, it becomes dark, and then we light up our homes, we light up our streets, we light up our, all of the commercial places and all of that with thousands and thousands and probably 1 million bulbs. And all of these 1 million bulbs are connected to electric houses which are pumping, we're creating electrical energy, transmitting them, supplying them, and keeping all of these bulbs going. And next morning, there is one bulb that comes up in the sky, one large, powerful bulb, which renders all of the millions of bulbs that we have in our homes insignificant. And in fact, we switch off all of that. And this bulb rises every morning and sets in the evening, very, very predictably. And now and then our bulbs that we make keeps fusing out, and you have to buy another one, fix another one. But this bulb, scientists say about some 8-9 billion years ago, it came on, and it's going to last for another 10 billion years. So, quite a long time. It never fuses out. If it did, we'll have serious problem. Just see all of these wonderful arrangements. Just like our human, we have a face, all of us, and we have an eyelid. And the eyelid, 2 eyelids, they flip simultaneously. I mean, if they were flipping like this, it would look a little odd, isn't it? Oh my God. But precisely timed. Nowadays, you get these different cameras, autofocus. You just focus a distant object, a close-by object, but immediately it focuses. Long ago, we used to have cameras, at least the older generation people, my generation people, we know. We used to have a camera and we used to focus manually and all of that. Sometimes a distant object, close-by object, you had to do it carefully. And then the era of autofocus cameras came. Look at these abilities in our human eye. I can look at a distant thing, next look here, in a second it autofocuses. One day I was talking to one gentleman this was some years ago, in a defense lab in India. And we were talking, and then he was telling me that the area that he works, he was a scientist. And the area that he works is known as artificial intelligence. I'm sure you all know this is a city of technology. A lot of these things happening here too. So I asked him, how many people you think are working in artificial intelligence? This was some 20 years ago. I think things have changed now. He said maybe about 500 scientists. And then I asked him, how are those scientists? He said, all brilliant scientists from all over the world, best institutes, best universities, brilliant scientists are involved in making machines intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence. Then I asked him a similar question. So if 500 best brains are involved in making a machine intelligent, artificially intelligent, can we conclude that the natural intelligence that has been made, there is no higher intelligence involved in making these intelligence? You see? So like this, if you analyze the world, when we look at around the world, like sometimes in our kitchens, our mothers who prepare something, sometimes they make something and something can go wrong. It's not somebody who is very, very experienced, but not so experienced. Something can go wrong. And then we say, you put that in the mouth, oh, something went wrong. Look at nature. I don't know if you have seen, many of you coming from Indian background, we are familiar with this. Look at the papaya fruit. Right? The skin is very bitter, but the fruit is very sweet. Right? Always. When you cut the papaya, there is a little skin and that comes into your mouth. Not very comfortable. Have you ever come across an accident happening? The skin became sweet and the fruit became bitter. And remember, for the fruit to be sweet, you require a certain kind of a molecule, like fructose, fruit sugar. And it has a certain, if you look at fructose molecule, it has quite a complex thing. And for the skin to be bitter, there's some other molecule like that which makes it bitter. And to make that complex molecule and go to the skin and remain there, and the rest of it is the sweet molecules. Look at the technology that's involved in it. And this entire fruit is such that when it is not ripe, the skin is green and it camouflages with the rest of it, the leaves and other things, you cannot notice it. Then as the fruit becomes riper and riper and ready, its skin color changes. Color changing means at that level it is a molecular change. Some other molecules are, those who know life science will know these things. So how all of these very minutely planned, how all these things are happening. Sutre manigana iva. There is something that is holding all of this. Krishna also says in the Gita, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina. I am pervaded in this world, but in my unmanifest form. He is not openly manifest. He is unmanifest, but he is all pervading. So by design, God, Krishna, has become unmanifest, but his presence is indicated by all of the wonderful things that we see around us, and from that we can recognize that there is God. By seeing the effects, you can recognize that the cause of that effect. "5,000 years ago, Krishna appeared here on this planet, and he manifests his different activities. And in a certain location, in a certain place, there was a conversation that he had with his devotee Arjuna, and that got recorded by great sages, and that is how we have this Bhagavad Gita. So in the course of the conversation, Arjuna and Krishna, they were talking, and they were also cousins. Krishna and Arjuna are cousins, and they were having friendly talks. Not always Arjuna knew that his cousin is God. He just thought they are our cousin and we love him. He's such a wonderful person. We love him. And he's always there to help us, guide us. So on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when this conversation was happening, Krishna began to mention, it happens in the 4th chapter. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha manur ikshvakave bravit. Krishna suddenly said, long ago I spoke this knowledge, I'm telling you Arjuna, I spoke this knowledge to sun god, Vivasvan, and Vivasvan spoke to Manu, Manu in turn spoke to Ikshvaku. In this way, this knowledge is coming down in a parampara. When Arjuna heard that, he was perplexed. Oh, Krishna, you spoke to Vivasvan? Like say, suppose I tell you, about 20 days back, 25 days back, I was in Delhi. And there was a very good meeting I had, an important and a very good meeting. And in that meeting, Mahatma Gandhi was there, and Jawaharlal Nehru was sitting next to him. And then I had taken some prasadam from the temple and I gave them, and they liked it. And then we talked, and the meeting lasted for about 30 minutes, and then we came up. It was a wonderful meeting. If I were to say that, already many of you are smiling. How can it be 25 days back? Gandhiji is so much senior. Swami Prabhuji, you are so junior. How could you have had a meeting with Gandhiji, Jawaharlal Nehru? Right? It's puzzling. Exactly same thing happened when Krishna and Arjuna were talking, and he said like this, long ago I spoke. And immediately Arjuna's response to that is, Arjuna uvacha, aparam bhavato janma, param janma vivasvataha, katam etat vijaniyam tvam adau proktavaniti. Aparam bhavato janma. Bhavataha janma aparam. Krishna, your birth, your junior. Param janma vivasvataha. Vivasvan's janma is so much more older. He is param janma. Katam etat vijaniyam tvam adau proktavaniti. How can I understand that you spoke to Vivasvan? It's just like saying, how can you are, Gandhiji is so much senior to you and you are so junior. How can I understand you spoke and had a meeting with Gandhiji? Katam etad vijaniyam. How can I understand? Tvam adau proktavaniti. You spoke in the past. So, very realistic question that Arjuna came across, asking Krishna. So, Krishna's answer is, next, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Bahuni me vyatithani janmani tavacharjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetta parantapa. Krishna is immediately telling Arjuna, there is a difference between you and me. I remember all the births in the past. You and I have had many births. Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjuna. I have had many births. I have had many appearances. You have had many appearances. I remember all of them, but you don't remember. And then in the next verse, Krishna says, Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swam adhisthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. Yes, Arjuna, I am unborn, aja, avyayatma, one who never deteriorates. Our body deteriorates. Suppose I come to this temple after 25 years, if I am alive, I won't be looking like this. I'll be even much more older. Suppose I tell you, I have an important, I'm going to come after 60 years from now, and I'm going to announce something important. Please, all of you come. 60 years, I'll be gone. And God bless all of you should remain. But at least I'll be gone, I'm sure. So this body that we have deteriorates. Krishna is saying, Avyaya, my never deteriorates. Bhutanam Ishvaropi san, I am the controller of all that exists. This is my nature. Being situated in my nature, prakritim swam adhisthaya. Swam prakritim adhisthaya. Adhisthaya means still situated in my nature. Sambhavami atmamaya. I come into this world as I have come before you, Arjuna. In other words, Krishna is pointing out that his existence is transcendental, divine existence. And after saying this, Krishna says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. My appearance, my activities, all of them are divyam. Anyone who knows this in truth, who understands me and my divine nature, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. One who knows tattvataha veti. One who knows this in truth. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. And when such a person gives up this body, for him there is no rebirth. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti, will come back to me. Such a person, Arjuna. So Krishna's nature is divyam and transcendental. And eyes, it is part of the creation. Krishna is beyond creation. He is the one who created. Before the creation existed, he existed. He alone existed. And he created. And part of his creation is our bodies, human bodies. Part of the human body is our eyes. And he existed before creation. So he is transcendental to creation. Now we are asking the question, with this eye, I want to see him. And we are asking, I want to see with these eyes. And we know this eyes has so many limitations. Even material things, everything these eyes cannot see. Like the radio waves we talked about, mind, intelligence. Our eyes cannot see these things. So Krishna's existence is divyam, transcendental, and our eyes have limited power, and hence we cannot directly see. But however, the Vedic literatures describe there is a process of training. Just like, say, for instance, an uneducated, never went to school, that kind of a person sees an airplane flying in the sky, he will wonder, oh, what a magic. It is flying like that. But somebody well versed in engineering will know that, no, there are some aerodynamic principles that are working and that's keeping it flying up there. We know. In the same way, we may not be able to see Krishna, but there is a certain type of a training that if we take up, education and training, then we will be able to see Krishna. And that training is known as bhakti. There is a verse in the Brahma Samhita, Premanjanachurita bhakti vilochanena santha sadhaiva hrudayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. This is a verse composed by Brahma. And Brahma says, there is actually one eye ointment. If you apply that ointment to your eyes, you can see Krishna. Wow, wonderful. Where can I go and buy that? From which drugstore can I buy that ointment? And so Krishna is saying that eye ointment is known as Premanjan, like Amrutanjan we have in India. This is called Premanjan. Premanjanachurita bhakti vilochanena. Anjana means an ointment. This is called Prema Anjana Achurita. If you apply this Prema Anjana Achurita, Prema Bhakti Anjana, if you apply that, Premanjana Achurita Bhakti Vilochanena Santha Sadhaiva Hrudayeshu Vilokayanti. And such devotees who have applied this Prema Bhakti Anjana to their eyes, they are Santha Sadhaiva Vilo, constantly they are seeing. Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam. They are constantly seeing Shama Sundara, who is a Achintya Gunaswarupa. He is an embodiment of all the most inconceivable and wonderful qualities. Achintya Gunaswarupam, they are able to. Such devotees who have that Premanjana on their eyes, they can see. The opposite of Premanjana is another ointment which we have all applied on our eyes. And that is known as Kamanjana. How to enjoy in this world, how to enjoy our senses, how to lord over, how to control. And that ointment is called Kamanjana, and by birth we have applied that. Congenito. We have come with that ointment. So, when you have the Kamanjana smeared on your eyes, you cannot see Krishna. And if we change that to Premanjana, then we will be able to. And so there is a process how to change this perspective of eyes, how to change our consciousness. And when we change and purify our consciousness by a spiritual process, and when we become spiritually educated and trained, just like an engineer knows how an airplane is flying because he knows, he's been trained in that. If we also accept that kind of a training process and purify our consciousness, then we will be able to see the transcendental truth about Krishna. Krishna is very merciful. When we don't have that qualification yet, still He wants to make Himself available to our eyes. And so He has created one facility, and that is known as Vigraha. Our eyes can see material things, earth, water, wood, metal. These are all material things. But they have also come from God. Everything has come from God. It's also God's energy. So in the Vedic literatures, there is a process. If you make a form of God with stone or metal or wood or colors, and the form of God is described in the Vedic literatures, how Krishna looks, how Krishna stands, how Vishnu looks, and so on. And if you make a form of the Lord with any of these elements, and then there is a process known as Prana Pratishta, installation ceremony, where a great Acharya who has Krishna in his heart, he requests Krishna, please come and reside in this statue. And on the prayer of an Acharya, the Lord agrees to manifest His presence in that Vigraha, and that is known as the Prana Pratishta ceremony. And from then on, that Vigraha is not metal or stone, because on Acharya's, a pure devotee's invitation, Krishna agrees to come and stay there, and He manifests His presence in that Vigraha. That is why we worship the Vigraha, and Vigraha gives an opportunity for us to come and offer our prayers, offer flowers, cook some food and offer to the Lord. And the Lord will leave all of that behind for us to honor as prasadam. And we can have festivals around those connected with the Lord. All of these features are recommended in the Vedic literatures, so that even though we are not qualified to see God because we don't have the Premanjana, yet the Lord agrees to come and manifest His presence in a deity form. And if we are more and more spiritually sensitized and trained, then we can clearly see that the deity is not stone or metal, is Krishna Himself. In fact, there are many wonderful instances of devotees who talk to the deity and the deities talk to them. It is said that one should go to the deity in a temple and disclose your heart, and the Lord will be pleased and He will bless and disclose His heart to us too. So, like this, in the Vedic culture, this kind of an arrangement is there, that even though we are not qualified, we can see the Lord in His deity form. So when we see the deity, that is not stone, it is Krishna Himself. So, in summary, there is a process by which we can come to a stage where we can see the transcendental Divyam nature of the Lord. Until such time, Lord has manifested Himself in a form of Vigraha, which we can all, even common people like us, can clearly see and offer our prayers and offer our worship to the Lord. Now, I talked about a process for becoming qualified to recognize and experience and see the transcendental nature of God. And that process for becoming qualified is different in different yugas. in this yuga, what is known as Kali Yuga, the process for getting the necessary qualifications to perceive the presence of the Lord is chanting of the names of God. This was popularized by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago, and among all the various mantras in the Vedic literatures, he pointed out one mantra which is known as the Maha Mantra, which addresses Krishna and Rama and Balarama, and that is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Now in the next few minutes that I have, we will all chant together 108 times. Somebody is there to distribute the malas? Oh yes, there is. There are some devotees, volunteers. They will move around and pass a mala. Or if you have a mala yourself, you can get one. Someone can give me also a mala. So, a few tips about chanting this Hare Krishna mantra. When we will all chant together Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you. We will chant 108 times. And when you are chanting, our mind may go here and there. The mind is very restless. Chanchalaihi mana Krishna, pramati bhalavadrudham. The mind is very obstinate, very powerful, very flickering. That's the nature of everyone's mind. So the mind may drift away into some thoughts. Bring back the mind and make the mind listen to the holy name. Hear the holy name. Now, the background thought when you are chanting is, Krishna, Rama, please engage me in your service. I want to serve you. Please engage me in your service. We don't want to ask God, give me this, give me that. We have a long list and all those. We can ask. Krishna understands. We are all his children. But a little more advanced understanding is, Krishna, you have already given me enough things. Now I want to serve you. Just like when you have small children ask the parents, Papa, give me this, Mama, give me this. And parents go on giving toys and this and that and so many things. And when the child grows up, say becomes 25 years old, at that time we expect my son or my daughter won't ask me, and instead will come and say, Father and Mother, you have given me so many things. What can I give you? Right? That's a more... Even at the age of 25 and 30, for son and daughter, they are asking me, Papa, give me this, Mama, give me this. We'll say, what kind of a son are you? Right? So in the same way, Krishna has blessed us with so many things. We should still not be asking, Krishna, give me this, give me that. Now let us ask Krishna, you have given me enough, Krishna. I want to serve you. Please engage me in your service. That is the meaning of the Hare Krishna mantra. You hear the holy name, keep this prayer in your mind that I want to serve the Lord, and this will take about 10 minutes. We will all chant together the Hare Krishna mantra. And chant a little audibly so that you can hear. And I will chant also audibly with the amplification. It will be loud. Or maybe we will have Prabhupada's chanting recorded. Will we have that? Okay, very good. Better than hearing my chanting. Srila Prabhupada will chant with us, and we will all chant together. If you have not received a mala, please raise your hand, and if you need a mala, please raise your hand. Yes, there is one Mataji here, and there are a few here, hands going up. And some more malas are needed here, please.